Inflation has been as bad as most of us remember, and you want a cheap car. So how much does $500 really get you these days anyways? That. It gets you that. So this is an off-road car I've been building for a budget of $500 total with mud tires, a lift, a custom bumper, a 12,000 pound winch, 40,000 lumens worth of floodlights, and a snorkel. And yes, it is currently dangling from a tree with that winch. So let's break that down. The car itself was $250. It's a 30-year-old Chevy Corsica that I bought from a friend who was gonna sell it to a scrapyard. Somehow it still runs, mostly. I then gave the front a lift with a 2x4 and some bolts. That was $25. And then I shoved some spacers into the back coils. They were even cheaper, $15 for the pair. Then I swapped my wheels for some old ATV tires, $40 for the whole set. That said, they're not really that fun on the highway. I then had to spend another $15 on an inner tube for this tire because it was like gonna blow up. And finally I added this marvelous snorkel to like do water crossings and stuff like that. Yeah, this is just a hose I ripped off my vacuum, so this was free. So in total, that's $355. I've still got $145 and just a few more things to add. So first off, I found this bumper for $50. I don't know if it's gonna fit, so I have to figure out a way to attach it. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm almost certainly gonna crash this car into something, probably intentionally, so I'm gonna install this correctly. And that means all of this plastic has to come off. So pro tip, if you're ever removing these plastic body pins, just use a pair of wire cutters. Honestly, they work pretty well, and you never know when you're just gonna like snip it right off. This is legitimately one of the worst bolts I've ever seen. Look at this stupid thing. Oh my gosh. Ah! Okay, plan B. Every other bolt is off this thing. That works. So here's our bumper. Looking at how this is built, it's probably not gonna be strong enough, but I don't really have a choice. This bumper was really cheap, which is like wonderful, but it was definitely not made for this car, so I'm gonna have to do some welding. And I've already encountered an issue. It doesn't fit. I guess we're just gonna cut all the way through on this side. I don't really know what I was expecting, but that's not terrible. So I've encountered another issue. I figured I would do a test fit before I get too much further, and yeah, this isn't gonna work. The bumper bows out in the middle, and those aren't really long enough to actually, you know, fit. So I think the next best option is gonna be to remove this bumper and weld my bumper onto this. Yeah, that doesn't even look that bad. Okay, let's get to welding. So they look pretty terrible, but I've seen worse welding jobs. Granted, that was just my other welding jobs, but hey, improvement is good. Wow, that like kind of fits the car perfectly.
And with how great the bumper looked, I figured I should probably see how strong it is.
Okay. Sweet. That'll buff right out. I thought about running it into a tree to test it out a bit more, but I care about all the trees on my property way more than I care about this car. There is one that needs to die, but that would fall on my house. We're just gonna say this is fine. That was a really lucky $50 purchase. But what was probably an even luckier $50 purchase? That thing. I don't know how, but I scored a $50 Harbor Freight winch. It's even the big one, 12,000 pounds. I am never going to need all of that. And the only thing that's really wrong with it is the reverse doesn't work. I don't even know why you really need that on a winch. The free spool works fine. God, this thing is ridiculous. It's like not much smaller than my engine. And all I've got to do is figure out how to make it fit. Yeah, all that plastic's gonna have to go. So the guy even gave me a wireless controller and remote that may or may not work. We'll figure that out later. First of all, we gotta figure out how we're gonna bolt this on. So it's been a couple of days and I'm still having trouble figuring out how I'm going to attach this winch to the bumper. The biggest issue is just how thick this bumper is. I really can't get bolts that long, at least not quickly. So I'm not gonna be able to go all the way through like I wanted to. So I think this is what we're gonna do. The back is super easy, just got a little bit of space here. Slide a piece of metal under that to reinforce it, drill some holes, and we're good. The front is way worse. I think the plan for this, we're gonna slap a piece of metal right there, weld it on, and stick a bolt all the way up through that metal into the winch. This is going to require a ridiculous amount of holes, and all of my drill bits suck. Making things even worse, the longest bolt I could possibly get is like barely enough to fit. So I'm gonna have to crush that. That worked. I do have to say, this bumper is not made of very thick metal. Yeah, I've got to really just hope that I'm getting these holes right, because this is super hard to measure. Oh yeah, I can like move the metal around just with the bolt. That's not great. So I drilled the bottom holes, and this one's looking pretty decent, whereas that one's a little crooked. It is a miracle any of my tools still work. But you know what's also gonna work? That bolt hole. Ignore the complete lack of structural integrity now. But yeah, we got something. So I was originally planning on drilling holes through this bar as well to be able to fit the bolts in at all, but I realized if I'm crafty enough, and because those holes are so big, there we go. That just saved me so much time. Oh, that is not a lot of bolts sticking up. Okay, now I gotta put that on. And now we get to see how well I did on the back. Well, it'll work, kind of. It's done. Not really, I'm still gonna weld it. Make it like strong and stuff. Oh, this bumper's ridiculously heavy now. I guess now we just see if this works. It's not doing anything. I'm gonna read the manual. So I've been screwing around with this. I've basically taken the whole thing apart, and I found if I just kind of like jump this, it works fine. That said, if I then switch the polarity, that's putting it into reverse basically, and then try to jump it, yeah, there's a lot more welding happening and not a lot of movement. So the motor's reverse is definitely messed up. I'm not gonna fix that today, but the winch itself does work. My next thought was maybe the controller's bad, so I went and bought a brand new winch controller, totally blowing my budget. Yeah, and that didn't work either, because somebody forgot to ground the whole assembly. Works perfectly. And my old one, which I may have messed around with a little bit, also works totally fine. So I've got a working winch now. You know, this is still in basically new condition. It's like I never even touched it. Okay, yeah, I can probably get that money back, which is good, because I still need to buy like lights. So I was looking into light bars and found that even the cheapest ones are still $100. And assuming I can even return that winch remote, I've only got $55 left. So when I built my shed, I put these shop lights in it, and they're like $20 each. Each of them are 20,000 lumens. And fun fact, that means if I put 2 of them on my car, that is over 10 times the legal limit of what you can have for headlights. So the first big issue with those is that they run on AC power, so there's no way I'm gonna be able to power them off this car. They take like 400 watts as well, so a simple cigarette lighter inverter is not gonna work. Luckily, I have a giant battery bank that will totally power them just fine. Is it cheating if I'm using a battery bank that costs over twice as much as the rest of the car does? I don't know. You can figure that out. I don't really care. It's gonna make my life a heck of a lot easier. So I went and bought just about everything needed to wire up a house, and then I've just got some wire left over from my shed.
So all of that added up to exactly $55 and I think like 7 cents. I think that technically puts me 7 cents over budget. So if anyone would like to buy some tires, I have a full set for 2 cents each.
Mounting the lights was going to be my next problem, but since 3D printing is basically an engineer's duct tape, I 3D printed something. Yeah, that'll work. This is so dumb. And if I hate it, it's not like this is permanent. It's just a few holes in the roof. And one big hole for the wire. I think my insulation might be smoking. Yeah, I should probably waterproof this too. I kind of need to figure out where I'm gonna put the light switch box. Like, I could do it there. I kind of like the idea of up there, but I don't really know what those nails are gonna do. I'm feeling through this material and it feels like there's some kind of board up there. More cardboard than board, I guess. But maybe I can try some screws. Yep, that did nothing. That said, you know what might be dumb enough to work? So one benefit of this option is that they're completely non-conductive. It's moving, but it's not coming out. Truly a flawless implementation. Okay, I got everything wired up. I ended up just running a line, wrapped it around this center light, and then ran it down to the back seat. I hope this doesn't destroy my battery bank. And whoa! It's still like kind of daylight outside and you can definitely see those lights. Oh, and my windshield's like disgusting. I can't even look at them. Oh my gosh. Well, it's a good thing I've got those wired up because it's probably about to rain and I need to get these sealed up. And to do that, we're obviously gonna use hot glue. So much hot glue. That is ugly but functional. God, you can't even see the car. Now I just have to put the rest of the car back together, clean up all my messes, and then I can test it. So I was barely able to get all of that done just in time to take it to an actual gambler event. The car totally survived, mostly. Something is boiling.
A little bit of extra coolant. I can literally smell my tires burning.
Anyways, that video is coming out next week, but I do still want to play around with some stuff, mainly the winch and the lights. And luckily enough, I've got some yard work I need to do. My tree has some dead branches. Now, just one very important safety note here. These winches stress that you're not supposed to lift with them. I'm not lifting, I'm unlifting. So in theory, if I just activate the winch, I'll pull the branch down. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. The car is going up. Dude, it completely lifted the front up. And if you don't know why I'm being so cautious, those winches totally can just snap and then they're straight up deadly. This is not really a great situation. Wow. Okay, first off, super impressed with the winch and the bumper, everything. It's holding up the car. Honestly, that like little dead branch is pretty impressive too. God, trees are just so cool. Like this whole branch is just dead. It doesn't care. That's awesome. I did just realize I should probably put the e-brake on. Front wheel drive car, no brakes. This might be dumb, but I think I want to go a little bit more. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. I love it so much. This car was $500. You know, I should probably just film the intro right here. This is really cool and all, but I'm starting to realize how a reverse gear on that winch might be kind of handy. Although, so I did think about using a jack. I'm honestly not sure which of these ideas is more dangerous. That worked! And if you were wondering what the floodlights actually look like, here's the headlights on in my dark garage, and that's the floodlights. I don't really see a difference.